Hey crafty friends, I'm so excited to be sharing my completed 2023 December daily with you. I hope that I can give you some ideas for your own project now that we are getting closer to December daily 2024. I actually finished this album back in March or April this past year. But by then, I think everyone's kind of over December daily, and I thought I would save it to show it to you now when maybe the ideas would be a little bit more relevant for you. So this was my first year using an actual Ali Edwards album. I like that they are so thick. I think they're like 2.5 inches thick. And I really like that. I feel like I can get everything into one album and I'm not busting at the seams. I don't make my projects super dimensional, and I'm not usually making too many really bulky elements, so everything can fit in one album. Now, the biggest drawback for me that I thought would really bother me is that the page protectors are quite a bit thinner. I'm used to the close to my heart ones that are like super thick and sturdy, and you can cut them and put flip flops on them, and these are substantially thinner. It didn't turn out to be an issue for me, and it probably helps to squeeze more into the album when the pages are thinner, but that's just something to know. Also, it's the 6 holes instead of like 3-hole design that I'm used to, but that was totally fine. I adapted. The reason why I do page protectors now, for the most part, is because I have my daughter handling these albums and I really don't want to have to worry about them getting wrecked or anything. So for now, I've been using mostly page protectors. That might change in the future. Now the glare is going to be pretty bad because these are all mostly in page protectors. So I thought maybe what I'd try and do is just tilt my album up a little bit with a book behind it, so that you can see the pages. They'll be slightly angled, which isn't ideal, but at least they won't just be glaring the lights off of the page protectors. So hopefully this works a little bit better. I have my title page here. I did 2023 in the outline alphabet from Close to My Heart. I have pine glitter paper around the outside and then the gold foil on the inside. That's how this die cuts. It cuts an inside and an outside. So I ran it through twice to get the 2 different papers. And then these trees, this was a stitching file from Paige Evans. And all I did was, before I did any stitching, I masked off these areas, did some ink blending, did some stamping to create some different shades of green. And then in the yellow, I did color this in. I think I colored it in with a gold marker, and then I used some gold floss or gold thread to stitch in there. And then these ones are just regular DMC floss, and I love how this turned out. Even behind a page protector, it's very tactile and just looks really nice. I love stitching, and whenever I can squeak it in here and there, it always makes me happy. Then I just have some die cut snowflakes out of white glitter paper. I don't even know if you guys can see the glitter, but it's white glitter paper, and that is my title page. And then behind that, I put a full-size 6x8 photo of my daughter. Then we're getting into day 1. So I have a couple things to say. Usually I like to have some continuity in my albums. So one of the things that I like to repeat is my number. So I like to pick one style of number, use it through the whole book, and so it's like a consistent element tying everything together. I also usually use just one collection of paper and embellishments, and that way everything matches and it makes it a little bit easier to work with. So on this one, I have a 6x8 photo. I have matted these 2x2 squares and left one in the middle for journaling, which I just hand wrote. And then I have glitter paper stars that were just punched. If you see any of these little phrase stickers, those are Ali Edwards. And then I have some little rhinestones there. I did the same kind of thing, a little cluster here and down here. So just creating some movement around the page and kind of make it feel like a little sprinkling of magic. This was about the Advent calendar, and on day 1, she got a glow-up red nose and some antlers. That nose did not last long. It was broken fairly quickly, but it brought a lot of joy for the little bit of time that it did work. Now on to day 2. This was actually a local parade, and I wanted to fit in a few photos, so I did use one of these 3x8 pockets from Ali Edwards, and I was able to put in a couple extra photos on here. This is where you're going to start to see my embellishments. I have die cut pine cones, die cut little pine sprigs from pine glitter paper, And I did a whole bunch of these and I just used them throughout my album. There's also these craft leaves. I took the embellishment pack that came with this paper collection and I tried to utilize that throughout my whole album as well. So I used the Evergreen collection from Close to My Heart. This was my first time using a collection that was a little bit more muted and a little bit more like just green focused, more neutrals and green. And there are lots of pops of red, but most of them come from our clothing actually, and a few embellishments. I stuck a lot to the paper from this collection and really playing up all those greens. This is a die cut. You could see the stitch around it. And I usually like to have extras of these kinds of things laying around so I can just pull them out, pop them on my page. Lots of times I have handwritten journaling because it's just faster to put it together. And then I can just pop it under there, quickly write the little story. And I find that easier than having to print all of my journaling. I will show you there are times when I do print my journaling, but there is a lot of handwritten journaling in here. To keep track of my stories and also the sketches that I'm using, which I'm going to talk about in a second, I made this little planner. This is actually a free download on the Creative Design Team website. And I used this as I went along and I kept track of what page size, sketch, the story, and photo sizes that I needed for each page. I don't have the completed one because I threw it out once my album was complete. I should have saved it so I could show you guys what a chicken scratch mess it was, but this was so helpful to keep everything organized because I really didn't do any crafting during the month. All of it happened after Christmas. So if you guys would like this free download, I will link it down below for you. Now, like I mentioned, I have been using Sketchbooks. Actually, the last couple years I've been using Sketchbooks. CDT has two different ones. We have volume 1 and volume 2. And most of my page designs came out of these two books. So I will show you here. There is that one for the first page. And you can see I have a 6x8 photo. I have the photo placements there, the journaling, the star idea was already there. And so then I just added my own pieces to it. This makes things super handy. There is cutting measurements, so you don't have to think about that. And basically, I would look at my photos and then decide kind of what layout would fit the photos that I was working with. So then on my little tracking sheet, I could write down the page size. So whether I was working at 6x8 or if it was a divided page protector, then I could write that down. And what sketch, so what page or what book the sketch is coming out of, and the photo sizes I need to print. So this was like my complete document to put all of this together, and the sketches just really helped to give me a good starting point. I didn't have to start from scratch. I didn't feel like I was starting completely from zero for everything, and there is a lot of sketches between these two books. And the nice thing is you can use them over and over again, because once you add different paper and maybe you move a few things around, like no one will ever notice that you are repeating. So this one here, I actually created this myself. These were digital images that I had purchased, and I had hoped to use them in my clusters in my album, but Cricut had a really hard time trying to do an offset for them. I guess it was all the really fine needles, and so I got frustrated. I did it here, and I think that's the only place I ended up using these, but they matched the collection really well. I also did the text on there, and then I just printed this on a piece of like shimmer white paper from Michaels and then stuck that in there. You can see we're continuing that same sort of cluster that we had on this page. I do try to do coordinating paper. So when I have one kind of like 2 or 3 patterns on this side, I try and repeat that on the coordinating page, even though they're different days. Usually, unless it's like Christmas Eve or there's something really big going on, I limit myself to one single 6x8 page per day. So often my pages have like multiple photos on them so that I can squeeze everything in. And you can see I'm repeating the number element. Sometimes I have it in these little shapes that came from the collection. I was actually, the workshop kit had some custom die cuts, so I used those. And then also these little snowflakes came from there. And then I have few glitter gems. Those came from the silver and gold collection. Tags were also from the die cuts that matched. So I find when you work with like one collection, it's just so much easier. This was a really fun design. This was one of the sketches as well, and it gave all the measurements for how to put your little strips on to get that nice little arrow or chevron design. And for pages, like I really do daily life and also our Christmas activities. So when it comes to stories, I'm alternating between just what we did that day and also some Christmas themed stories. For me, it's a really good push to get out and go do some fun things in December. That way we are actually going out and doing some Christmassy things. It's just a reminder for that. And that's one of the reasons I do enjoy doing December Daily every year. So here you can see I brought in some pops of red just to help coordinate with my photos, which had some red. Here we go, we're rocking some red and purple. It is what it is. We have some pinks in here too, and that's fine. But overall, everything is really in that green palette with pops of red. On the back side here, I added some stamped and die cut trees, another label shape for my journaling. Little 3x4 there with our blow up wiener dog. She loves that thing. And then over here, I did like a whole little cluster. I think this was supposed to be like a grid of 6, but instead of doing the 6th photo, I did a tag so I could fit all my journaling on there. I have some cord and lots of little hits of glitter paper going on because it's Christmas and you gotta bring the twinkle. Here I brought in some other digital images that I had printed. I did print and cut on my Cricut, and there were some really pretty poinsettia designs, so I did bring those in. These circle elements were all from the workshop kit die cuts. Here we're just decorating the tree. This is an Ali Edwards tree, printable. So I just printed it off, and then on the back side, I printed off journaling so that I could cut down the paper and make it fit on this space. It just about didn't fit with the holes, but we got it. We got there. It just barely fits, but it works. And then you can see over here, I continued those printable die cuts. Have a little bit of stamping snuck in here and there. I got Deck the Halls. Up here it says Family Traditions. Those are stamps. I didn't use nearly as many stamps as I had kind of planned to, but when it comes to putting this together in the new year, I was kind of like, okay, what's the fastest thing I can do and just whip this thing together. Here is actually a slimline card die that I cut apart to give me a nice little fancy edge. I'll lift that up. You can see it has like a stitched edge as well as like this little kind of scalloped edge to it. And then here we have some printing right on my photo and then a little bit of journaling. I could have put the journaling on there too, but I had to use a pretty heavy white shadow to get this to show with all the different colors in there. This was a very strange year because usually by now we have tons of snow, and actually we had snow on October 23rd last year, and then in December there was like no snow. So it was very odd. You see more strips of the pattern paper coming in. And I really like this design here. I use my gold Spectrum Noir paint pens to add some gold details on some of the pages, as well as around the little number spot there. And this is a stamped and embossed piece from a Close to My Heart set. It has a coordinating die with it as well. Makes a really good title. Love that. Here, if you can see, I have a stitched edge around that photo, and that is because this is a die from, I think it's a background set for a card, and it has that stitching on it, so I just trimmed my photo down to match that. I did that a couple times. They actually make really good mats for your photos. So if you make cards, make sure to look at those dies too, because you don't want to be leaving out some really good options for photo mats. I love the extra detail of the stitching. I was very tempted to do some machine stitching in here. That's one of those techniques that then I would feel like I need to bring it through all the pages, not just in one or two places. And then, you know how that goes. It just adds so much more time onto it. This page was maybe the one I struggled with the most in the whole book. I don't typically do 2x2s, especially 2x2 grids like this. And so this took me a while of playing. This was a big day. We went to a mall that has like an indoor theme park kind of thing and rode a bunch of rides. And it was such a super fun day. I will say we did catch germs there and then get sick afterwards. So I don't think it was maybe the best thing to do in December before Christmas. But Isabella had a blast and absolutely loved it. And I eventually did pull that page together. The backside is not my most favorite, but I felt like there was so much going on and so many different colors that I just ended up leaving these two blank to have kind of a resting spot for your eyes. Now over here, we're getting back to more layouts from the sketchbook and using die cuts from the collection, stickers from the collection. Same with over here. This is another one of the sketches. It's a super fun one when you have like little scraps of paper. This is stamped and embossed, so is this one. I have a little gingerbread stamp set from Close to My Heart, so that's where the O Snap came from as well. And then I have another one of these little 3x8 pages. I really like having the different sizes in here. And this year I am doing a different size album. I am super excited about the possibility of having like tiered pages, and I'm going to be doing a video very soon on that to share with you, both some of my past projects but also my plans for this year. So here I just have a gold glitter die cut. This, I have a die from Close to My Heart that cuts that, and then some pictures of the food and the presents. So super simple to pull together. I don't typically get really crafty with this project, which is funny because on my normal layouts, I usually do a lot of like techniques and different things like that. But when it comes to this project, I find I have to keep it more simple. Otherwise, it just doesn't end up happening, or it takes me all year to complete it. So here I have some stamping in the background, and same down here. And then I clustered in some stickers and die cuts. I have a little border punch down there, and then I brought that over on this side. You could see how I'm using the coordinating paper, even though these are 2 different days and 2 different stories. This is another one of those card front dies that I cut my photo down to fit inside, and I love the detail on that die. It is so pretty. And then I have some of that gold pen. I just did dots around the border. I stopped where the stamping is, but everywhere else I have little gold dots that go around. And then over here, I actually did some partial die cutting because this tag die is, I think, about that big, but I needed it longer to fit in this journaling. So this is where I talk about we were knocked down being sick. So we took turns of like being with Isabella while she was sick, and then we took turns falling sick ourselves and taking care of each other. So it was a good probably week and a half of rotating sickness and everyone not feeling well. So that was mostly our Christmas, but we spent a lot of time together and got to watch a lot of movies. Don't want to tell you how many times I watched the Grinch movie because that is Isabella's favorite. But I printed this out. I sized it so it would fit first on my computer, and then I printed it out, and then I took the die, I cut it, but only put the plates partial way, and then I did die cut it again to get it the rest of the way down. So that worked really good. I was able to fit in my whole story there. Don't have a ton of pictures, obviously, from this time. So this was my last good day before I got sick. So usually I spend 1 or 2 days doing a ton of baking and giving baking to our neighbors and friends and things, and that just didn't happen this year. I got 1 day of baking in, and then I was sick. And then I really didn't feel like I should be giving that baking to anyone else. So no one got baking from me last year. Here we go. We got a picture of the backyard. This did not happen on that day. I am totally good with having pictures of things that maybe didn't happen on that day. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. I had hung lights all the way around our backyard. My neighbor actually said it looks like a Hallmark movie back there. I was thinking we should have a skating rink in the back and we could film a Hallmark movie back there. But so I did sometime during the month snap this picture when it was a nice clear night. And so I put it on this day, even though it didn't happen on this day. And we did eventually get snow, as you can see. And then just watching the Grinch. So because that was such a big part of our holiday, I did put that in. I used another one of those stitched card panels that you would normally use making a card. And this was actually already done. So this year I did go through my kind of scraps bin where I put things that I've stamped and not used, panels that I was working on for cards. This was actually based off a card that I did in the 31 Days of Christmas cards, and I had this left over, so I just popped that on. It looks like I did a lot of work, but that work did not happen during the making of this album, which is nice. I really loved this bow die. This pops up a few times during this album. And I actually used that gold pen to do my journaling lines. So I don't know if you could see that reflection, but I did the journaling lines with the gold pen, paint pen. And then I also took it around this little label. And all these little red stickers, those are all from the Ali Edwards phrase stickers. And then over here, I had another one of those flower stamps. So I used it here to continue the same theme over here. You see I repeated that bow. I had a square stitch shape, and so I used that little frame over top of my photo. This is something I need to remember for this year. I really enjoyed using these to house my photos or to frame out my photos, because then you get that extra stitching detail. And so I need to make sure I do that. Now this ice cream date actually did not happen on this day, but it did happen during the month, and it may have happened more than once, but I did want to include that in there somewhere. And then I have my turnip puff that I make every Christmas. I included the recipe in the photo, and it is clear enough that in person you can read the recipe. I have more stamped here. I think I may have run out of shapes for my numbers, because I see I haven't been using them for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I'm using this shape, and that's because they were just in the workshop, and I think I ran out of those shapes. But all of these embellishments are all from the coordinating embellishments for that evergreen kit. And then here we are, we're coming into Christmas Eve. I just did a full 6x8 photo. I love including these full-size photos, and I really like them being behind plastic and not getting like fingerprints and everything on them, and the page protectors really keep those safe from sticky hands. So here we are at Christmas Eve. We are smiling, but boy, we feel ill. I'm pretty sure I don't have any makeup on in these pictures because it was just not feeling great, but we wanted to pull it together for Isabella so that she still felt like it was super special. Now I have, this is another slimline die from Close to My Heart. I cut that out of gold glitter paper. This is a separate die from a different set from Close to My Heart, and I cut that out with pearl paper. And that same bow, I'm repeating that bow over and over again here. See presents under the tree. I started Christmas Eve off with some chocolate chip crumb muffins, which is a favorite family recipe. And then the story here, which you can't really tell from any of the photos, but the story is Christmas Eve morning, we discovered our hot water tank was leaking. So that was great. We actually did get someone out to come and fix it. And thankfully, we were able to get all of that done and continue on with Christmas plans, which is really good because I was worried that things were going to go down the drain. I had already pre-cooked mostly everything. The only thing we were really cooking that day was the turkey. Everything else was a heat up because I'd prepped everything ahead, which I think if you can do that, that is the way to go. And we did have our big meal on Christmas Eve night so that Christmas Day we could just take it easy, have a pajama day. Still, we're not feeling that great, especially Cody. I think by then I was feeling better, but he was still really rough. So we opened our pajamas, Frankie getting himself way too big a piece of a baked potato, which later made him sick, so that was great. And then we have Christmas morning, and I wanted to squeeze in more pictures of Christmas morning because honestly, all of them are absolutely adorable. So I used another one of those 2x2 pages, but this time I cut it down a little bit so you can see what's coming next, the rest of day 25. So all of this is day 25, tons of little pictures. I kind of am sorry that these pictures are so small, but some of them are also going to be in my regular 12x12 scrapbooking. So that's okay. I did use some acetate pieces here. They're gold on one side, and then the back side is silver. So what I did was I just cut these little phrase stickers to match size-wise, so front to back they are not like sticking out or anything, and that worked really good to create some little windows. If I would have been thinking, I should have planned what photos were going behind it so that I could highlight, like peekaboo through to whatever photo was in the back, but that did not work out with what I had behind it, but something to keep in mind for the future. This is the rest of day 25. Daddy putting together Gabby's dollhouse. She got some really fun presents and she just played all day, all week, just kept playing with all her new things. and had a blast. All right, so day 26, same thing, playing. Playing with presents. That's what that was all about. More digital images that I did print and cut. Some circles that I actually cut out with some stitch dies. You can see the stitching detail there. And some more of those glitter gems. There wasn't a lot to say other than she was busy playing. We finally got out to see Christmas lights, so I did put a few pictures of those in here. Usually we go out at least once or twice before Christmas, or even on Christmas Eve, and drive around, but yeah, we were just not feeling up to it. So 27th, we finally did make it out to see lights. And then here you can see I was working with 4x6 pockets, but I had vertical photos, so I decided to make it look like 3x4 pockets and just continue this design down so it looks like individual pockets, but these are connected. Have another one of those stitch labels for my journaling there. And then moving on to day 29, I actually decided to make cinnamon buns for the first time. This was lots of fun. I do actually have some printed journaling under here, and I used a border die that I have that actually cuts out labels to do that. And then this says something new. It's one of the Ali Edwards stickers. And I used one of those 3x8 pages because I had so many photos of the process, the finished thing, and then my little helper wearing her new doctor glasses that she got in her doctor kit for Christmas. And you can see I'm doing the same thing, carrying over the items I used on this side onto this side. This was a sticker from the sticker sheet. And then day 30, not a lot happening. Sleeping. Lots of like resting, relaxing. And I think these were taken on different days throughout the month, but it's nice to have some of those filler things. I like to go right through the 31st, so sometimes you need those little filler things. There is some hidden journaling back here, so that's on a tag that just fits behind there with one of those little bows. I do like this bow die cut because it's not dimensional, so whereas cord and ribbon and stuff takes up some extra space as far as dimension, those ones lay nice and flat. I usually always have a page in my December daily about the weather, so just showing a little bit of the super mild weather. This screenshot was a little bit late. Wished I would have taken it kind of the week before, but this is when I remembered to take it. That's what was there, so that's what I'm using. And then just a picture of us outside going to the park, playing in the snow, wearing her like really light snowsuit because it's super mild. And I just decided to match this side, so I just reversed the stripe design with the paper strips. This is also good to do at the end of your project when you have just like little strips and scraps of paper left. And then to finish out the album, I have a repeat of the front. This was actually a full like 12-inch long design, and I just cut it in two so that one page could be the front, one page could be the back, and I did do this ahead of time. I did all the stitching beforehand, and I didn't add any snowflakes or any other text on here. By the time I got to this page, I was so done. I didn't want to do anything else. But I hope this was super helpful for you guys and you got some good ideas. I'll make sure to link the sketchbooks and that planning handout below for you. And I will have another video coming up very soon where I am going to show you a look at some of my projects past, talk to you about some of the mistakes I've made and how I've learned from those, and also what I'm planning to do this year, show you the album, the paper collection, all that kind of good stuff. When that's live, I will put it right here. Until then, you can enjoy this video, and I will see you again very soon.